Okay, we're going to shift gears now and talk about Pico ballooning before lunch, so this will be a little painful, but excuse me. What Mike asked me to talk about was Edge of Space Science's adventure into Pico ballooning. We've done about 400, and this will be 403 latex balloons. That's been EOSS's claim to fame. And we started Pico ballooning. We did one back in 2017, and we've been pretty successful. So he wanted me to talk about how we were so successful and how you could get going in Pico ballooning. So the answer on how to get going is ask Bill. And that's the sum total of my talk. Okay. But essentially what Bill provides is the sky tracker, and it's the whole package with instructions that just about gets you started without any additional assistance. And if you need additional assistance, Bill is happy to talk to you about it and get you going. But you can see the picture there of Bill back quite a few years ago. That's one of the older balloons that we don't use much anymore. But he has developed this sky tracker, which is a small circuit board with the plastic solar panels on it. And he provides you the antennas and packages it up and sends it to you with instructions. And about all you need to do is figure out what balloon you need to use, and if you can read his handwriting, that's not too tough. But let me tell you what we have done, EOSS has done, our experience has been, and then we can talk about some of the elements of the program. In 2017, and GPSL in Boise, Idaho, we decided to launch a Pico balloon. And what we did is we used the balloons that were current at the time. We used one of the Pico trackers, and it was pretty successful. It launched from Boise, Idaho. It flew up over northern Canada, came down along the east coast of, what are we doing here? Okay.
Turning down the
okay,
audio.
there we go. Flew along the east coast, got into the Caribbean, ran into some thunderstorms in the, what I call the Bermuda Triangle, and died. The balloons that we were using at that time were kind of the next generation beyond the Walmart party balloons. We were buying them from some scientific supply, but had to put two of them together to get enough lift. The 15-gram payload and antennas. And it flew down into the Caribbean, and you can see what the weather looked like in the Caribbean. Thing actually circled around, came down, disappeared. Next morning it was back up at 30,000 feet, and then it circled down and never did come back. So so that was EOS, that was back in 2017, and then just last September we got things going again. Actually, I won a sky tracker as a door prize here at GPSL one year. Sat in my shack for about 3 years, and then we finally got it going. And now we have 4 Pico balloons flying around the world. EOSS P2, which is the one up there over the over Turkey right now, that was launched in September. It has flown around the world multiple times. 3 and 4 were launched together at the Rocky Mountain ARRL convention in October. And then EOSS P5 over there, over Mexico, was launched for a school in Colorado back in May. Okay, EOSS P2 has been our most successful one. The balloon we used was a 36-inch balloon CY Mylar is the name of the balloon, comes from Amazon, 2 for $10. And they have been pretty successful. In fact, successful enough that EOSS-P2 has gone around the world 18 times and is still floating. It's been about almost 274 days at this point. So we've been real pleased with that. In the winter, it goes up north and doesn't get enough light for the solar panels, and that's an issue. Okay, EOSS-P3, we used a balloon that came from Scientific Balloon Supply. That's a $169 balloon, and at one point that was the state of the art. And so we bought one of those. It sat in my shack for 2 years, but we got it out, we filled it up with air and pre-stretched it. We'll talk about that a little bit. Flew that one, and it's been flying for 237 days. It's been around the world 13 times and is still going. And EOSS-P4 was another one of those CY Mylar balloons. And what I'm showing you here is a piece of software that I had Claude write for me. It's actually a script, or no, what is it, a VBA program on Excel. But every time it goes around the world, I download the data from amateur.sonhub.org, run this script, and it calculates when it crossed the longitude where we launched it from, how many days it's been, what date and time it actually crossed. So saves me a little work. And that balloon's been up 14 laps around the world. And then the one that we launched for the students has been up there for 46 days. It's been around the world twice, and is cruising along. They're all flying on the order of 45 to 49,000 feet. This balloon is the only one where we've used helium. The other ones we use hydrogen. We use hydrogen for the EOSS balloon, so we have tanks. We're rattling around in people's garages, so can do hydrogen, and that's worked. Unfortunately, what's happened over the last week is 2 of my balloons have disappeared. Number 5, which is over Mexico, I haven't heard anything from that in 8 days. We're in the summertime now. This is my first experience with summertime, but I think we've got more storms going on in the summertime. Central America is a pretty stormy area, so that may be the end of 3. In the winter, I've had experience where it's disappeared for a couple of weeks and then has reappeared. But that was mostly when it went up north, got far enough up north that the sun angle was not sufficient to charge the solar panels. But I have a feeling number 5 may be gone. And then number 3, which is over here in Southeast Asia, I haven't heard from it in 11 days. So it may have gotten some storms over in that area and been gone. So, I'll give it another couple of weeks before I really, we'll just keep watching and see. But 2 and 4 are still cruising along. I've gotten reports from them in the last day or so. Notice how 2 goes along and then all of a sudden there's a big jump in where it is. Turns out when these GPS systems get over into the war zone, there's some GPS spoofing that goes on. I'm not sure exactly what country is doing it, but lo and behold, every time our balloon comes over there, it ends up sitting on the ground, it reports itself as sitting on the ground at the Queen Aliyah International Airport in Amman, Jordan. And it'll sit there for 2 or 3 days, and then all of a sudden, blink, it'll show up over central China again. So somebody is spoofing the GPS. Balloons need a coffee break too. Yeah, needs a coffee break, sure. Anyway, at one point I thought it was hanging in a tree, maybe there near the airport, but in Jordan there probably aren't many trees, so that's probably not what happened. But anyway, that's been our experience. Yeah, Bill.
The Israelis jam, the Russians jam, and they often make it look like the Israelis in particular try and have you either in Jordan or Beirut. So if somebody tries to attack them, they get guided to those two locations instead of Israel. I actually saw the pattern on a recent Pico balloon draw a Star of David out just west of Israel.
Oh.
In the flight path.
And we had one day that was going along kind of between Israel and Turkey, and all of a sudden, blink, it would be down at Amman, Jordan, then blink back up here, blink, blink. And I think that was probably somebody new sitting at the jamming desk that was learning how the system worked.
The Polish hams are very upset with Kaliningrad, Russia, which is a little tiny port isolated right next to the Poland, and they are the worst spoofers of all. And they completely wipe out GPS on the eastern portion of Poland. So the balloon folks in Poland are having a real rough time with that.
That port is a major submarine base for the Russians.
Okay, so a lot of military sensitivity that they're worried about GPS transmissions.
I've actually seen the Sinaloa cartel jamming going across Mexico.
Yep. So I'm hoping that's what's happened with number 5 up there. Is it'll reappear, but we'll see.
Jim, what frequencies are those on?
These are using Whisper. 20 meters, 17 meters are 2 on each of those. I haven't tried. Bill's been using what, 15 meters and 10 meters. I have not tried those yet, or 2 meters. Okay, so I was asked to talk about Pico ballooning, but there are some people here in this room that are a hell of a lot more experienced than me with Pico balloons. And so what I thought I would do here is kind of go through the various elements of a Pico balloon program, and you folks that have experience with this, feel free to chip in with your additional activity. But I kind of broke down a Pico balloon program in terms of, we've got the beacons, we've got solar panels on the beacons, we've got balloons, how we fill the balloons with which gas, how we launch the balloons, tracking them, and then student engagement. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was beacons. Now I talked about Sky Tracker beacon that's available, and you saw a picture of that. There's several other types that are available, and I have put references or footnotes on these. And my last slide is a whole bunch of references. We'll try to figure out how to get that to people so you can look those up too. But there's the Sky Tracker. There's a thing called a Traquito. It's kind of an interesting concept. Rather than somebody selling them, what the guy does is he gives out the Gerber files and the various files that you can to the PCB board manufacturers in China and actually get the part made. And China now not only will make the PCB board, but they'll populate it for you. And people are getting these things built for on the order of $25 or $30 a piece. And if you order 5 of them or 10 of them, get a pretty good price on them. And this is a board that has the GPS on it and has some of the interface stuff, and then you solder this to a Raspberry Pi Pico. The guy has the programming software on the website. You can load that, build a solar panel, build the antenna, build the GPS antenna, and fly it. And people do a lot of that. There's also a PT Solar APRS tracker. I forget where that comes from. Oh, okay, yes, that's right, that's Zach's. And you have the solar panels and everything, right? Antenna, you provide your own antenna?
No, it comes with
Okay, there you go. There's another way to get started easy. And I'm sure Zach will give you all the coaching that you need as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. The UB4 is a beacon that's made by QRP Labs,
It's actually U4.
U4B. Oh, okay, I got that reversed. QRP Labs, and Hans Summers has designed and built that originally as a project for his daughter's high school or junior high program. And they also make a light APRS plus Whisper beacon that they sell. Zactec is another provider of beacons that people have had pretty good success with. And then I ran across K9YO, built a Whisper tracker. He has a 35-page instruction manual that he has written for junior or middle school students. And you get the transmitter or a oscillator module and a GPS module from Alibaba, and shows the junior high kids how to put this thing together. And I've got the parts. I've never actually built it yet. But there's a lot of different beacons opportunities around. And as far as the solar panels go, Bill has used, and I think Zach's using them too, they're plastic solar panels. What's it called?
Power film solar.
Power film solar panels. And the neat part of these is they're fairly rugged. If you're working with students, you can pass them around. The alternative is a crystalline solar panel. You can get those from China, and you get a stack of 100 of them that's about 3/4 of an inch thick. They're very thin, they're very fragile. You have to solder them, but you can build a solar panel that'll work that way as well. The solar panel angle is an interesting issue. In the winter, if the beacon gets too far north, the solar angle is not adequate to charge the system well enough, and it'll disappear up to the north for a period of time, wander around up north, and then it'll come back down south and reappear. We've had that. Bill, I know, has worked on some software to...
And during the summer, they can actually get 24-hour comms when it's up high enough latitude.
Okay. With an angled solar panel?
When you have 24-hour
Okay.
sunlight in the polar regions.
Okay. So people have built solar arrays that are in fact tilted that will resolve some of those issues. And as far as the balloon goes, the balloons go, I don't know, Bill, can you tell us what was some of the early concepts on
The
balloons?
first ones were the 36-inch Mylar silver balloons. They were pancake balloons. And that was the very original ones that the UK Haas group in the UK did. And they have a program called SPLAT that actually is a really cool spreadsheet that predicts a lot about how to inflate these Pico balloons. And it's useful for testing what altitude you're going to be floating at. If you get that spreadsheet, it was Project Splat. The spreadsheet's called Float 1. There are several variants of it, but it'll allow you to predict based on your payload weight and the amount of lift what altitude you will actually float at. It's pretty accurate. Up for helium or hydrogen. The next batch was the Yokohama balloons, those and the Orbs balloons. Some were silver, some were clear. The clear seemed to be working a little better. And there's a lot of issues, particularly in California, where the silver Mylar balloons will short out power lines. And so we've kind of try to go with the the clear poly balloons when we can. And orbs is a really good one that's been popular, but the most cost-effective one right now is Miler, because it's a 4-gore spherical balloon, and so your volume is a lot better than those single seal pancake balloons. And they'll get you up to 43,000 feet with helium and 47,000 or more with hydrogen, which greatly increases your odds of avoiding storms. During the summer, even those altitudes are risky. Now, there was a guy flying some balloons out of Denver, not Worldview, I'll think of his company name, David Brown. He's been making cylinder balloons that are really long, like 3 times longer than the SPS-13. And you may have seen a few flights that have been around 65,000 feet, and that's his flights. It's KF0BTU. In fact, a couple of his are still flying. And I want to point out on your Edge of Space EOS SP4, you noticed it went to the southern hemisphere. And once you get above about 45 to 50,000 feet, that transition can happen more frequently than at lower altitudes. But the Miler is one of the most popular ones at the moment because they're $5 a piece. You have to check them though. Some of them have pinholes, some of them have bad seams. You just have to pressure test them to about 0.4 to 0.5 PSI. I wouldn't go much higher than that. The other day I was watching the conjunction of Jupiter and Venus, and I had one being pumped up in the bedroom, and all of a sudden the whole house shook. And I was outside. I heard this loud boom, and the house shook. And it was, I'd gone above about 0.4 at 5.5, I estimated. So keep it under 0.5.
It turns out, if you look at that spreadsheet, that the volume of the balloon is one of the biggest issues about how high you'll get the balloon. So the bigger the volume, the better you can do. And it turns out you can pre-stretch the balloon and get about 20% increase in volume. And I got the pre-stretching protocol that I use from Mike and Jim. And they've got a protocol. I take one of those balloons and I fill it up to about 0.1 PSI. Turns out the balloon floats at about 0.1 PSI or something like that. But what I do is I take the balloon and I pump it full of air with a couple of aquarium pumps. Do I have a picture of that? Maybe a little bit later, I think I do. But I pump it up to about 0.1 PSI, sit it for an hour. Then I pump it up to 0.2 PSI and I let it sit for about an hour. And then I let it collapse back down and then pump it up to 0.3 PSI. Now, I'm not sure how these guys came up with this protocol, but you spend a whole day doing it. 0.3 PSI, and then collapse it down, and then bring it up to 0.4. It starts to get exciting then, because what you're doing is stretching out. And you know, if you've got pinhole or you've got seams, you're going to start to seam problems. You're going to start to see that. And then finally, I bring it up to 0.5 PSI. And I think, Jim, you popped one at
Popped 2 of them at 0.5. The Similars, I usually try to just go to, well, actually, I quit measuring and I quit listening to my air pressure, and I started looking at the seams and the wrinkles that are in there, and I go until that goes smooth, and when that's smooth, I'm done.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, you fill them up and they do have wrinkles right along where the seams are, but you can stretch them and finally get it tight. And it's fun, it creaks and pops, and I keep thinking of Bill's.
Now the amount of pressure to get it to no wrinkles varies on humidity in your house. So at low humidity, it takes more pressure to get it to a no wrinkle. I actually leave a few wrinkles right in about a third of the center, because once you get it to no wrinkles, you're pretty close to getting it to go kaboom.
I won't go above 0.5 though.
No.
Yeah, I generally do not go above 0.5. You have to get close to that when it's about 30% humidity, but when it's in summertime, 0.4 to 0.43 is fine.
Mine popped at 0.48.
Yeah.
Okay. Now being an analytical guy, what I do is I try to measure the volume. And the way I do it is I've got some soft string and I kind of put it around the hemisphere or the center and measure the volume or measure the circumference, and then I can measure the circumference as it changes. But the final thing that I do is once I get it, 0.5 and I leave it there for an hour or two, then I collapse it back down to 0.1 and then I compare the circumference of 0.1 when I first started versus after I've stretched it. And that's where I'm seeing about a 20% volume.
And the string method is very cumbersome and it's tough to get it around and accurate. K6STS, Doug, told me what he does is he gets one of those digital $20 laser rangefinders. I got mine from Tractor Supply. And you just put that on top of the balloon. Your surface is reflective down below, and it's very accurate. And then you get your diameter, so you don't have to do the string. It's just a real quick
That'd be slick. Yeah.
laser shot. I shoot for about 121 to 123 inches circumference, which is right around 38 to 39 inch diameter. But some people have gotten them over 125 inches.
Okay.
Is that what you've seen?
No, I don't think I'm 123. I think is what I was
123 seems pretty typical.
getting, but
Some people really pushed the envelope, so to speak, and gotten up to 125.
Are you getting those on Amazon, you said?
Yeah, two for $10 on Amazon.
I think I found them
yeah, the key, it says 60-inch.
They'll
then.
actually
It used to say jumbo, right? It used to say party, but now it says party / meteorological / hobby / yes.
I found it, thank you.
Okay, and then the final thing is, or another thing with the balloon is heat sealing. Once you get the balloon inflated with the gas, not the air now, but when we actually get ready to launch it, we fill it with the gas. Got to do more than just tape. Some people have taped and some people have glued the neck, but what I've been doing, and I think other folks here are doing, is heat sealing the neck of the balloon. And I actually bought one of these vacuum heat sealers for food packets, and we put the neck in there and close it, and the compressor goes for, or the vacuum pump goes for a minute trying to seal up the food. But then finally what it does is it puts a heat seal across that neck, and we put 2 heat seals, and that's been pretty for us.
Yeah. Question. Now, I heat seal right above the filling point, but below where it bubbles out. Now, you told me you heat seal right around the edge of the balloon?
No, we go right across where the valve, above the fill port, but below the balloon, but it's where there's 4 layers of plastic.
Okay, so that's what you're
Yeah, that's where we're heat sealing, is at 4 layers of plastic. If you get down low enough, you could get, I think, below the fill port. No, we're doing.
Right, I've been heat sealing 2 or 3 right above the fill port, below where that 4 layer is. But what have you been doing, Jim?
Well, a big thing that, a change that we have made is that when we heat seal, you put it down, you relay let go when it's done. You set a timer thing on that, and I would hear the relay let go, and then I'd take it out, and we use 3 seals on ours. But I was sitting there thinking about that. You're melting the plastic in there, and the electricity shut off when that relay clicks. So when I hear it click, I hold it down for a lucky number 7 seconds to hold pressure on that to make sure that the molten plastic is tight against each other and give it a chance to cool down a little bit before I release it. And we've never had a problem with
What
that,
setting
and
do
we'll
you
keep
use?
doing that.
I've been using about 3.5 seconds. What have you been on my timer? What have you been setting yours to?
Yeah.
What do you set yours to, Jim? The dial?
We do about 4 or 5,
4 to 5?
4.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Jim's onto something. I heat sealed and I pulled it out to kind of test it, and the neck fell off in my hand. So yeah, you want to not touch it for several seconds till it's not molten.
Let it cool. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have one step. When you fill it with, not
Oh.
physical, but when you fill it with air, what is your process to evacuate that air so you can replace it?
How to evacuate the air when we get done is a vacuum pump. I know Bill's got a,
Tire inflator with a vacuum port.
and you know, we've got a straw put in the valve with a tube, or actually I just use the tube itself up into the balloon. And I've got a 12-volt vacuum pump, and put that on and just suck and bring it down, and it collapses the balloon completely. Because you want to get all the air out, so when you put hydrogen or helium in, you don't have it mixed with little air.
I got a question for Jim. Where do you heat seal the neck?
Basically, we're right in the middle of the neck.
But not in the 4-layer? Or?
No,
Right.
we go right in the middle of the neck.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a picture of the neck.
There's a difference between the way you and I have been doing it and the way you did it. But obviously yours worked.
So far, so good.
Yeah. That's cool. That's good to know.
Okay, and then as far as fill gas, we've used hydrogen on 4 of the 5 balloons that we have flown. And helium is another option, and in fact, that's if you're going to go to school or do it in a hotel room or something like that. If you use hydrogen, don't tell them. But if you use helium, and Bill has advised that you need to be careful what helium you get. If you go to Walmart and buy the helium, you can read on it that it's environmentally friendly. It's 20% air, 80% helium.
So you're buying 20% air.
Yeah, right.
This is 99.9. I did a test of balloon time from Walmart and Dollar General. And I did a test of this stuff and another one called Great Whip. The Great Whip and this is on Amazon. This was 99.9. Great Whip's about 98. It's pretty close. But boy, avoid the balloon time because you're going to float thousands of feet lower and probably not stay up very long. But this is really good quality.
Yeah, it looks like this stuff. Yeah, so party factor you can get on.
It's $50 and you get 14.1 cubic feet. Enough to do about 3 or 4 people.
Okay. And another key thing, filled in Germany appears to be the pure stuff. And so watch for that when you're buying it through Amazon. Okay, when it comes time to launch it, how do I back up with the arrow? Yeah, there we go. When it comes time to launch it, you need to have a long enough runway or a long enough field for the thing to take off. One of the things that, the less gas you put in it, the higher it's going to go because that gas will fill the balloon. We're talking about a super pressure balloon where it fills up till it's tight. But the slower it's going to go up. So what, your rule?
That's the Dayton Hamvention's web beam, a hex beam, up, we did that about, 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Something like that, yeah.
And if I'd have tried to hit that intentionally, it would have been 1,000,000 to 1 odds. But wham, right into the web. It was like a spider web. And they rotated that thing. They even lowered the tower. And it finally fell out, and then it hit a power line. And it stayed on the power line for a minute, and then it took off, and it ended up in Turkey. It flew all the way to Turkey. But yeah,
But what you need to do is you need to have a big field or a big runway, and so that when the thing takes off, goes up. You know, it's going to go up slow. So you need the wind to not carry it down into the trees. So that's a consideration.
right, over time.
Okay, and then as far as tracking, there's a number of ways to track it. First of all, if you're using a balloon that's transmitting APRS, a 2-meter APRS transmitter, you're going to be able to see it on APRS.FI. When it goes across the Atlantic Ocean, you're not going to be able to see it because APRS will only go, 150 miles or something like that. But if you use HF Whisper, there's a number of websites that will track Whisper, and you can use one of those, or as Bill does with his sky trackers, he's got a Python program that you run on a computer, and it will scrape the Whisper database and then create an APRS packet and put it out on APRS. So that's the easiest way that we've done it, is we tell the kids or whoever wants to track it just to go to APRS.FI and look for it. But there is some Whisper, try whispertv.com, and then ARRL has just come up with a website, balloons.arrl.org, that they have started to create. It's, I think, still under development, but this is a picture of it here, and it'll show Whisper balloons. And one thing that they told me they're going to put in it is to be able to say, here's a geographic square. I want to know all the balloons that are flying in that square. And the idea was the FAA could use that, or the military could use that if they're trying to figure out where balloons are. But another real good tool, and we've talked about it earlier today, is amateur.sonhub.org. It'll show up on there. You've got some neat features. One is you can go to the Grafana stuff and see all the charts, and you can also go down and download the data out of it. And then also it has the predictor on there. So if you want to go to that and click on, actually see a prediction of where the balloon's going to go over the next few week, I believe.
And it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other thing is high split. Just thinking, Harry. High split, which is a NOAA product. You can just Google it, and you can actually go and run predictions, or you can run past predictions of where the balloon has been, and use that to predict where it's going to go, or if it disappears, maybe you can trace where it went. And a couple of my guesses of how many times we've gone around the world comes from that. Harry, yeah.
I've been trying to use the predictor on Android. Has anybody had a problem with it double screening, where one screen overlays another screen and you can't use either one of them?
Is that on the Sonhub, amateur.sonhub?
It's on the predictor.
The predictor, okay, yeah, no. No.
You go to run it.
The dialogues are talking to each other.
Yeah, it's like one screen's behind the other, and
No,
when you run
not very well.
and I had to figure out a way to get around that.
Where's-
It's hard work to get to work on a phone.
I was going to say, Mark and Michaela have probably both gone to bed by now, so we can't talk to them.
Just close the little window and it'll show all the predictions without, you can close the window and the predictions stay on the screen that's hidden.
I can't close either one of the windows. I have to close the whole thing and come back into it, and this next time I try to run a prediction, I can window over the window. Yeah.
Maybe a different browser?
Well, yeah, I might want Chrome, I'm using Firefox.
Yeah. Okay, classroom use of Pico balloons. You know, this is a neat tool for that. And we personally have very little experience with EOSS. We had one group that we've launched for, but I think Mike and Jim, maybe you can say a little bit about using it in the classroom. You've got quite a bit of experience.
For Pico?
Yeah.
Yeah, we fly Picos for both, well, for 5th graders, 8th graders, and seniors in high school. And of course, each level, we get a little bit more detailed in the presentation we have, the training we have. Seniors in high school, we go all through the physics of lift and all the things that happen with balloons and track. But with the 5th graders, you know, they're more excited about watching it go up in the air and watching it on the computer and stuff, so we kind of tone it down. But yeah, we've flown 31 balloons, Pico balloons, for those three levels, and had a lot of success with building some interest and excitement about science and STEM type activities. We still have 2 balloons in the air right now, and even last night at Thursday night at the park, I had both kids and science teachers come up to me and say, we're still tracking them, we're still watching them, and they're on summer vacations. So yeah, it's been a pretty good program.
I will add that the fact that you can engage the students on their smartphones, that's where one great way of hooking them, because they can track it every day. And I know the one we did for Florida, that school, they talk about it just about every day in their classroom of where the balloon is, and the kids are tracking it at home, and so it's,
If you're trying to get into schools like that, one of the things that helped us sell it more than the STEM side of it is that because these are potentially around the world type things, Jim sends out little blurbs about what countries they go over.
right.
Their geography teachers and other teachers will grab a hold of that and use our balloons in their classrooms to help them learn about geography. They've had other English teachers that have them write reports about the balloon. So it's kind of filtered all through the school system.
Wow, that's neat.
Even though our brains are focused on STEM, the teachers have taken it and run with it.
Yeah, I do know the difference between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan now. That's
You know, and another thing to mention is that this can get kind of expensive if you start going into different schools and launching for kids. But we found out here that if we've got a city and county community foundations, plus some pretty big industries here, but if you're doing this for children and you go ask for funding, they open up their checkbooks to us and say, how much do you want? And we have never had a problem financially with financing this project.
wow.
You know, we're more worried, we get so much money in our bank account now, we're worried we're gonna die before we get it all spent. So we've called off trying to go for more money for a while.
It's a mini ADRC. Jeez. Okay, so that was kind of my run through of a Pico program. And these are the links, I guess, yeah, take a picture. The links of some of the various places to various trackers. Then down the bottom, the Google, I didn't put the Google references for Party Factory or for the CY Mylar balloons because they're so huge. But you Google those, you can find those. So it's kind of Pico balloons in a nutshell from my experience anyway. So, thanks. Guess we've been talking with questions or whatever, or grab Zach or grab Mike or Bill, to chat about it. But Tony, I guess you're getting experience now too. So Yeah.
The GPS spoof, is the only way you can tell the spoofing's occurred is by the nonsense of the location?
Yes.
Typically, it'll be a very low altitude abruptly and an abrupt shift of position. And sometimes it'll be like on the ground when it was flying along normally, just and it'll be hundreds of miles away.
Two packets are 180 degrees apart from each other, and they're going about the speed of light.
Yeah.
You know you've been
Yeah.
spoofed.
Well, I was thinking about, is there a workaround? Is there an equivalent of dead reckoning? But the balloons rely on the GPS to give you the data to do
Well,
the dead.
one way you can know that it is spoof and not the balloon coming down is look at the temperatures. If it's still like minus degrees and it's over the Sahara Desert, then you know that something's being spoofed.
Yeah.
And a related question, you were talking about the path prediction. Have you ever tried path predictions through the spoofing range to see if it comes out right at the other end?
Oh, yeah, you could
Yeah,
probably.
if you
Yeah,
could,
predictions don't use GPS data other than the starting point.
yeah. But if you ran high split, take right before it spoofs, and then run high split and see where it goes, give you an idea. Yeah.
And if you are approaching a zone like that, you can use the Sanjab predictor too. Because it's pretty
good.
Yeah, if you go to amateur.zonehub and click on float, it'll show you where it's going to go. Yeah.
I was reading some of the GPS chips have
Yeah. And they'll show you the hot spots. Where the hot spots are for.
There actually is a website called GPS Jammer, I think it is, and it'll show you the zones where the actual jamming and spoofing occurs. Let's see if I can find
We
it.
got a few down in Arizona once in a while.
Yeah, every once in a while you see
You
it.
see them down there.
Yeah.
You don't want to do marks.
Do you want to do that before? Yeah.
We got 15 minutes.
Okay. I
Want
can.
to get started then?
Yeah, I can try to get.
It's gpsjam.org. Oh man, look at all that.
Yeah.
Eastern Europe, all a lot of that is all red. But you'll see some over the United States every once in a while. And down in southern Texas. And there's the Sinaloa cartel right there. So gpsjam.org.
Okay, I guess you don't get rid of me that easily. But what I'd like to do is give a quick talk on a wireless release that we've developed at EOSS. Now this is for latex balloons. And we fly a lot of big latex balloons, which are big enough that they are non-exempt from the requirements of 49 CFR 101. And one of those requirements is that you have a mechanism for terminating the flight. And so we've gone through a number of ways of doing that. And I'd like to talk about this wireless release that we've developed. And I guess you were talking about a release that you've worked on too, so it'd be interesting to compare. But why do we need a release? Primarily, the reason that we have a release is to get rid of the latex shards and prevent them from fouling the parachute. Not careful, you'll get a lot of latex coming back down. And this is a great picture. I don't know, had you even attempted to separate here or just bringing the latex down with the balloon?
In my presentation later, I'm going to talk about one of the parachute lines that we had to cut, and that might have been because of
Okay. But if the latex comes down with the balloon, it can easily foul the parachute, and then things come down a lot faster than you want. Here's a classic picture of the balloon bursting, but if you look carefully up there at the parachute, which is we have a spreader ring for the parachute, and above the spreader ring, but below the parachute, you can see that the latex has actually gotten in to the parachute already on the burst, and is going to potentially foul the parachute at this point. And here's a picture of that the students took from a payload that was further on down the payload string, and when the balloon burst, there's pieces of latex that have actually come down below the parachute and below the down into the payload string. So the potential for fouling there is still there. And we think that when the balloon actually bursts, fairly big pressure release and the blowing of latex shards. So the idea would be to get rid of and then if you're flying a non-exempt balloon, this is a balloon with a payload string that weighs greater than 12 pounds, you have to have at least 2 payload cut-down mechanisms or devices to operate independently of each other. And we say one of the mechanisms for terminating the flight is the balloon bursting, and then the other one would be a device that you could send a radio signal to and separate the balloon from the payload string. So this is kind of the driver for developing a release. Now there's a number of ways that we've tried releases over the years. The first one is a mechanical release. And picture this, if you took a pair of pliers and put a string up at pliers are facing downward. You put a string on the handle up here between the two, and then you lift it up by the center. It's going to pull the pliers together. And if you put a ring in the bottom here with the, then take the whole thing, turn it over, the balloon is going to pull up on the ring, and the payload string is going to be down below. Now when the balloon bursts and this whole thing releases, the pliers are going to open up and let the ring go separate. So at one point we had a mechanical release, and it was a little bit sensitive. As the balloon went up, if you hit a turbulent section, it could pull enough to release the thing. So what we did, or one of the smart engineers in our group did, was put a mechanical barometer, essentially a bellows in there, that held the thing together until it got up over about 70,000 feet. So we get up through turbulence, then let it start to hang there and release if need be. But the problem is that doesn't solve the problem of terminating the flight. So we had another device on there with a nichrome wire and batteries and a relay such that you could send up a signal, heat up the nichrome wire, and melt the line, electrical thermal setup. The problem there is that it won't release on its own. You send it a command, it takes a while to heat up, and by that time the shards have possibly fouled the parachute. And the other problem was it needed to be rebuilt each time. You melt the nylon wire, you got to open the thing up, you got to take out the melted wire, either come up with more nichrome or clean it up. Turns out nichrome wire used to be tough to find. Harry was just saying he would buy, well, you were saying hair dryers? Yeah. And use the nichrome wire out of the hair dryer. That's an ingenious approach. And then apparently you can get nichrome wire from the vaping business now, replacement nichromes.
I have 10,000 feet of it. I bought it from a NASA auction, so if anybody wants some.
Okay.
I just buy it in spools on Amazon. You can get it off Amazon now.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
buy spools and gauges.
Okay.
Maybe 28 somewhere.
Yeah, just look for foam cutters.
Foam cutting, okay, okay. I think the guy that that built it, he didn't like rebuilding them, so that was the big deal. So we need to come up with some sort of a mechanical or electrical setup. So what we've come up with is a release. We named them Abel, Baker, and Charlie, Adam, Baker, and Charlie. But the gray box up there is the release. It's above the parachute and it's below the balloon. And then down below the parachute, we have a beacon. That's called our top beacon. And that has the GPS and an accelerometer in it. It also has a receiver that we can send DTMF signals up to. And so that's the setup we've got. And then we've got some sort of communication between the top and the release up there. So how did when the burst happens, in that top beacon, we've got an accelerometer, and we've played around with what sort of, when burst actually, you see a bump in the acceleration, and then you see a free fall on the order of a second or two. And if you can get the software in that top beacon to detect that free fall, then send the message up to the release on the top, the release, let the balloon go. We hopefully get rid of the balloon before it fouls the parachute. So looking at the accelerometer data, our smart engineers came up with a period of time, and I think he told me that it was about 0.7 seconds of less than a half a G is essentially detection of the start of free fall and the release. Okay, so how do we mechanically do the release up in the top, that release? Well, what it is on the top of the box, there's a aluminum setup. And what that setup has, there's a little brass gate. And the gate is held closed by a tooth. And then the ring is put underneath that gate, and the balloon is tied to the top of the ring. And when a signal is sent to this release, the tooth is pulled back by a servo motor, and the gate can flap open, and the ring can release, and the balloon is then separated from the payload string. And to make sure that, to detect that that's happened, take a piece of wire, put it through the ring, and then onto a couple of connectors there at the bottom, and so that jerks it out, and then it can detect that the opening actually occurred.
What's the size of that, roughly?
The ring is a 1 inch, maybe 1 inch and a quarter size ring, yeah.
So how big is that box?
The box is 3 inches.
3 inches?
Yeah, 3 inch by, with the frame and everything, is probably 3 by 6. Yeah. Okay, and here's the mechanism that's inside. You can see there's a mechanical arm that's on a bolt, and that actually goes up through the top and has the tooth on the top of it. And then the blue over there on the right is a servo motor. And the servo motor, when it engages, pulls the mechanical arm open. Then there's a reed switch there that detects that the mechanical arm has been pulled and sends the signal back down. So that's a mechanical thing. Now, it also has a spring to hold the tooth in position. The servo motor is connected, and notice that that's a wire with, it looks like a joint in the center of it. And then the reed switch. So the whole thing is pretty funky in terms of adjustments and everything. And that's why we don't always get a detection that the tooth is opened with a micro switch, so we have a wire on top, and once in a while you'll get a message that says failure to open, but the balloon is in fact gone. So it's interesting. What we've always thought is if we could get some clever engineering students as a project to take a whole nother look at this thing and come up with maybe a different mechanical approach might be neat.
What are you using, what code are you sending up?
We've
Or do you send any code up? It's just all looking at the acceleration forces?
Well, either way, the top has the accelerometer in it, and the software is looking for the free fall. Then we can also send DTMF codes up to the top, and then it will send a message to release.
You can manually command it to open.
Yes, right.
What
Yeah.
are you using for the RF link, or is it a?
We went for Bluetooth, and now we're trying LoRa. I'll talk about that here in just a second.
Oh.
Finish up with the mechanical thing here. So we've got the, this is showing the detail. The servo, the servo's connected, and essentially when the servo is energized, it rolls around, pulls the arm, the switch, and then the pivot arm. I think I explained that pretty well.
And
Okay.
you don't have trouble with those, that looks like a plastic gear servo. I would imagine you would use a metal gear servo.
No, they've used just a hobby level servo, and I don't think we've had trouble with it stripping out. Servo's kind of interesting. It does draw, when it initially fires up, it draws like 2 amps. And so the power supply that has been built for this thing, you can see on the back it's got a couple of big capacitors on there to give it enough juice. Over on the left-hand side, the round thing at the bottom there is actually a inductor for a, is it a boost converter to get the 5 volts up enough to run the servo processor and some interface hardware. And then the circuit board that's plugged in there is a Bluetooth radio. And the idea is talk Bluetooth between the top payload and the release. And it turns out the Bluetooth has not been real successful in that the Bluetooth does actually fade in and out. And so we're trying LoRa right now. But one more slide here on the mechanical. Essentially, it's got a frame. It's got an aluminum frame to hold the arm and everything in the servo all in position. And then on the circuit board, it's bolted to the back of the thing, and it's got this has 2 pad type lithium ion batteries in it. And I think, and then it's packaged together into, foam core around it to make it usable. And then this thing just sits on the top of the parachute. And when we're done, when we retrieve it out in the field, they always want us to take a picture. Did it open? Did it, release the balloon? And then that gets wrapped up with the parachute when it sends back or taken back out of the field.